Adam Silver just said something that's sending shockwaves through the world of women's basketball, and it might just be the spark that sets off a storm in the WNBA locker rooms. Caitlin Clark, already a household name in college basketball, has been dominating headlines with her jaw-dropping performances, and now the NBA commissioner has publicly weighed in on her impact. His words weren't just praise. They were a declaration of influence, a recognition that her talent, skill, and star power could shake up the entire landscape of women's sports.
For fans, it's thrilling. For some WNBA players, it's infuriating. Silver didn't mince words.
He highlighted Caitlin Clark's ability to change games, draw massive attention, and influence the way people watch and engage with basketball at every level. And while many applauded the acknowledgement, insiders say some WNBA players are quietly fuming.
Why?
Because the comments inadvertently place Clark on a pedestal that challenges long-standing assumptions about who defines elite women's basketball. Suddenly, the conversation isn't just about stats or championships, it's about relevance, recognition, and media attention. The reaction online was immediate. Fans flooded social media with clips of Clark's highlight reels, praising her vision, scoring ability, and leadership. Meanwhile, speculation began swirling about how this attention might impact the WNBA, the league many players have fought to elevate for years. Some argue that Clark's rise highlights the need for the WNBA to continue evolving and giving its stars the visibility they deserve. Others wonder if this could spark jealousy, competition, and tension among players who feel overshadowed by a collegiate superstar already being lauded by the highest-ranking NBA official. This isn't just a story about one athlete being praised. It's about the ripple effects of public endorsement from one of the most powerful voices in basketball. Silver's recognition of Caitlin Clark could influence endorsements, fan followings, and even league priorities. And in a sport where visibility equals influence, every word matters. Players, fans, and industry insiders are watching closely to see what comes next, because the impact of this statement could be felt for years to come. Caitlin Clark has always been a force to be reckoned with on the basketball court, but recent comments from NBA Commissioner Adam Silver have elevated her influence to a level few anticipated. For years, Clark dominated at the collegiate level, breaking records, setting new standards, and consistently delivering performances that left fans and commentators in awe. She wasn't just a star, she was a game changer, a player whose presence altered how opponents approached every matchup. But when Adam Silver publicly acknowledged her impact, it was more than validation. It was a statement that reverberated through the entire landscape of women's basketball, from college gyms to professional arenas, including the WNBA. Silver's words highlighted Clark's unique combination of scoring, leadership, and sheer basketball IQ. He pointed out how she has transformed games, captured fan attention, and set a benchmark for excellence in women's sports that is impossible to ignore. For fans of the game, it was thrilling to hear a figure of Silver's authority recognize the importance of a rising star. But behind the scenes, there were whispers of tension. WNBA players, some of whom have spent years fighting for visibility, endorsement opportunities, and recognition, reportedly felt a pang of frustration. While Clark is undeniably talented, the endorsement from the NBA commissioner cast a shadow over long-standing narratives about who holds influence and relevance in women's basketball. The reaction among fans was immediate and overwhelming. Social media exploded with clips of Clark's highlights, deep three-pointers, precise passes, and clutch moments that showcased her ability to take over games single-handedly. Hashtags praising her dominance trended within hours. But as the conversation unfolded online, the undercurrent of jealousy among WNBA players became more apparent. Sources close to the league indicate that some athletes were frustrated by what they saw as a misalignment between merit and recognition. For years, they have been advocating for increased pay, more media coverage, and equitable exposure for the WNBA. Now, a collegiate player, still years away from professional play, was receiving accolades from one of the most powerful voices in basketball, potentially overshadowing the very league these players were trying to elevate.
This tension is not just about ego.
It is a reflection of systemic issues within women's sports, where visibility, media coverage, and endorsement opportunities are limited and fiercely competitive. Clark's rise, amplified by Silver's comments, forces a reckoning within the WNBA. How can established players continue to claim influence, draw attention, and secure opportunities when a collegiate athlete is suddenly thrust into the spotlight? The dynamics are complicated further by public perception. Fans and media outlets often equate attention with relevance, and in an environment where public narrative can shape careers, this sudden endorsement carries enormous weight. Within the WNBA locker rooms, the reactions are reportedly mixed. Some players view the attention on Clark as inspiration, proof that talent and hard work are recognized and rewarded. Others see it as a threat, a reminder that influence in women's basketball is fragile, and that public perception can shift in an instant. The debate is amplified because Silver is not just any commentator. He is the NBA commissioner, a figure whose opinions carry authority, legitimacy, and global attention. His words have the power to influence endorsements, broadcast priorities, and even fan allegiances, creating a ripple effect that directly impacts current professional players. Meanwhile, agents, sponsors, and media outlets are recalibrating their approach. Clark's marketability, already significant, has skyrocketed in the wake of Silver's endorsement. Agents see opportunity, brands see potential collaborations, and media outlets see stories that will drive engagement. For WNBA players, this sudden shift in focus creates both opportunity and tension. The league benefits from increased attention on women's basketball overall, but the individual spotlight may not be equally distributed. Established stars may find themselves competing not just on the court, but in the narrative space that defines visibility, influence, and professional leverage. As this story develops, it becomes clear that Adam Silver's comments are more than just praise for a single player. They are a catalyst, igniting debates about visibility, equity, and the balance of power in women's basketball. Caitlin Clark's rise intersects with the ambitions, frustrations, and careers of WNBA players, creating a complex environment where every word, tweet, and endorsement carries weight. Fans are watching closely, players are reacting behind the scenes, and the league itself faces the challenge of navigating a moment that could reshape public perception and professional priorities in ways that no one anticipated. The ripple effect of Adam Silver's comments on Caitlin Clark didn't take long to reach the players in the WNBA locker rooms. What may have seemed like a simple acknowledgement from the NBA commissioner quickly morphed into a storm of opinions, frustrations, and high-stakes speculation. Players who had spent years building their brands, demanding visibility, and fighting for equitable media coverage were suddenly facing the reality that a collegiate star was capturing attention at levels that sometimes eclipsed even their most celebrated moments. Social media analysts and insiders began to track the impact, noting spikes in searches, mentions, and engagement surrounding Clark, often at the expense of professional stars who had already earned their place in the league. The initial reactions were subtle. A few players posted ambiguous social media messages praising hard work, grit, and the importance of staying focused, but the underlying tone suggested irritation. These weren't direct confrontations. They were measured expressions of frustration, the kind that only those deeply embedded in the culture could read accurately. Behind the scenes, conversations in group chats and team meetings reportedly centered on a shared concern. How could a player still in college command such influence, while established professionals still struggled to gain comparable recognition? The contrast highlighted long-standing inequalities in coverage, exposure, and public perception, forcing players to confront the systemic challenges of their own careers. Agents and sports marketers quickly noticed the shift as well. Endorsement opportunities, media interviews, and even sponsorship pitches began pivoting toward Caitlin Clark, capitalizing on the sudden attention amplified by Silver's public remarks. For WNBA players, this created a dual sense of opportunity and threat. On one hand, the spotlight on women's basketball overall could help the league, driving audiences to games and boosting overall fan engagement. On the other hand, it threatened to draw attention away from current professionals, particularly veterans who had invested years in growing the league's reputation. It became increasingly clear that the landscape of women's basketball was being redefined in real time, and the traditional hierarchy of influence was being challenged. Locker room discussions reportedly evolved from frustration into strategy. Players began to talk openly about how to leverage social media more effectively, how to build personal brands that could withstand shifts in attention, and how to make themselves indispensable not just on the court, but in the broader narrative surrounding the sport. Some discussed collaborating with brands and media outlets to ensure their visibility remained consistent, while others emphasized the need to focus solely on performance, believing that excellence would eventually command the attention that was being temporarily diverted to Clark. In essence, the situation became a test of adaptability and resilience, pushing players to think beyond traditional measures of success. The media frenzy added fuel to the fire. Analysts debated whether Silver's praise was fair, whether it was strategic, or whether it inadvertently sparked envy among WNBA athletes. Headlines framed the story in dramatic terms. WNBA players furious over Caitlin Clark praise and Adam Silver ignites locker room tensions. Social media amplified these narratives, with fans, commentators, and industry insiders weighing in on every possible angle. The discussion often revolved around visibility and influence, highlighting the disparity between college and professional recognition, and questioning whether current structures in women's basketball adequately reward those who have dedicated years to the sport. As the situation unfolded, it became clear that this moment wasn't just about jealousy or personal feelings. It reflected deeper structural tensions within women's basketball. The WNBA, despite its progress, still faces limitations in media coverage, sponsorship, and revenue compared to male leagues. When a new talent like Clark emerges and receives high-profile attention, it exposes these limitations, forcing players and league officials alike to reckon with a system that often undervalues established stars. Discussions began about how to balance recognition for rising talent with maintaining the credibility and visibility of the league's veterans. Even fans became part of the conversation, some cheering Clark's rise while others defended WNBA stars, noting their experience, skill, and contributions to the sport over years of professional play. Social media became a battlefield of opinions, comparisons, and debates, further increasing the pressure on players and league officials. The tension wasn't just interpersonal. It was systemic, highlighting how public recognition, media influence, and league policies intersect in ways that can profoundly impact careers and legacies. By the end of Part 2, it was evident that Adam Silver's comments had ignited more than just praise for Caitlin Clark. They had sparked a complex, multi-layered discussion involving jealousy, strategic positioning, and the ongoing challenge of maintaining equitable recognition in women's professional basketball. What started as acknowledgement had transformed into a turning point, one that could reshape relationships, influence league dynamics, and force WNBA players to adapt in ways that would define the next phase of their careers. The stakes were high, the emotions were raw, and the story was far from over. By the time the third week of reactions hit, the situation surrounding Caitlin Clark's rise and Adam Silver's public comments had escalated far beyond locker room whispers and social media debates. What had begun as a moment of admiration for Clark's exceptional talent had grown into a full-blown cultural conversation about influence, recognition, and power dynamics in women's basketball. The league, the players, and the fans were all watching closely, each side interpreting the unfolding events through their own lens, and the tension was palpable. For many WNBA players, the visibility Clark was receiving seemed disproportionate, a stark reminder that public attention and accolades don't always align with experience, hard work, or professional contributions. Inside the WNBA, players' reactions were a mix of frustration, strategic recalibration, and quiet determination. Many veterans expressed the sentiment that no single moment of praise, even from a figure as prominent as Adam Silver, should overshadow years of dedication. After all, these athletes had fought through grueling seasons, secured victories, and championed the league's growth against long-standing societal and systemic obstacles. Yet the sudden surge of attention toward a collegiate star highlighted an uncomfortable truth. Public perception and media amplification could, at times, wield more influence than professional achievements. The message was clear. Influence wasn't always earned linearly. Sometimes, it was thrust into prominence, creating tension for those who had worked to climb the ladder steadily. Social media had become both the battlefield and the amplifier. Clips of Clark's highlights went viral, accumulating millions of views, while hashtags like #CaitlinClarkDominates and #NextLevelTalent trended relentlessly. Fans, journalists, and influencers debated every play, dissected every statistic, and shared endless commentary about her potential impact on the future of women's basketball. Meanwhile, WNBA players found themselves caught in the crossfire of public opinion. Some responded diplomatically, congratulating Clark while subtly reminding followers of the league's stars and accomplishments. Others were less reserved, posting pointed comments that reflected frustration at the imbalance of attention and recognition. What was striking was how quickly these online narratives transformed into discussions about broader structural inequities in women's professional sports. Behind the scenes, agents and sports marketers were rethinking strategy. Endorsement deals, media appearances, and sponsorship opportunities started to pivot toward Clark, seeing her as a new face capable of elevating brand visibility. This shift prompted reflection among WNBA players, many of whom had long relied on their growing reputations to secure similar deals. The sudden focus on Clark's marketability forced professionals to evaluate their own approach to branding, fan engagement, and media strategy. It became evident that talent alone was no longer sufficient. Narrative control, public attention, and timing played equally critical roles in shaping influence. The league itself began to feel the pressure. Executives recognized that this moment, while disruptive, also offered opportunities. The conversation surrounding Clark could potentially expand the audience for women's basketball, increase sponsorship interest, and draw in fans who had previously focused on men's basketball. But it also required careful management to avoid alienating WNBA players, whose loyalty, skill, and commitment were essential to maintaining the league's credibility. Balancing recognition for rising talent with equitable attention for professional athletes became a central priority, highlighting the delicate dance between growth, fairness, and perception in sports administration. Meanwhile, the media continued to amplify tension. Headlines suggested conflict, jealousy, and competition between collegiate stars and professional players. Pundits debated the implications of Silver's comments, framing Clark as a disruptor who might challenge the established order. Social media users fueled the debate further, comparing statistics, career trajectories, and marketability. The narrative became more than about basketball. It was about visibility, influence, and the often unspoken rules governing how recognition is distributed in women's sports. Every viral post, every share, and every opinion added layers of complexity to an already charged atmosphere. The situation reached a point where even casual fans could sense the tension. Caitlin Clark's rise was no longer a story of personal achievement alone. It had become a flashpoint exposing systemic challenges, professional rivalries, and questions about who truly defines elite status in women's basketball. For WNBA players, this was a moment of reckoning, a test of resilience, strategy, and adaptability in an environment where recognition could shift rapidly and unpredictably. For Clark, it was a challenge of her own, balancing the thrill of newfound attention with the pressure of public scrutiny, high expectations, and the unintended consequences of her meteoric rise. By the end of this phase, the narrative was unmistakable. Adam Silver's comments had ignited a multi-layered conversation that went far beyond a single player's talent. It had exposed fault lines within professional women's basketball, forced players to confront the realities of influence and perception, and challenged the league to navigate a delicate balance between celebrating rising stars and honoring those who had built its foundation. The story was no longer just about Caitlin Clark. It was about the evolving landscape of women's basketball, the complexities of recognition, and the pressures of navigating fame in a highly scrutinized and competitive world. As the weeks went on, the tension surrounding Caitlin Clark's meteoric rise and Adam Silver's high-profile praise began spilling into public discourse, turning what was once an internal conversation into a full-blown cultural moment. The WNBA found itself at the center of scrutiny, with players, fans, and media all debating the implications of Silver's comments. Some argued that recognizing Clark's influence was a natural reflection of talent, while others suggested that the praise inadvertently cast shadows over the league's established stars, potentially threatening visibility, marketability, and influence. The league had built its reputation over decades, and now the narrative risked undermining that foundation, whether intentionally or not. Inside WNBA locker rooms, the impact was palpable. Veteran players, many of whom had worked tirelessly to increase exposure for the league, expressed both admiration for Clark and frustration at the disproportionate attention she was receiving. Social media was a constant reminder of the imbalance. Posts, highlight reels, and endorsements celebrating Clark's college-level achievements circulated widely, often outpacing professional WNBA content in engagement and visibility. Agents and marketing teams took notice, quickly recalculating strategies to capitalize on Clark's burgeoning influence while ensuring that their established clients maintained relevance. The tension was no longer hypothetical. It had become a matter of professional survival and long-term career planning. The players' frustration wasn't just rooted in ego or competition.
It was strategic and pragmatic.
WNBA athletes have long fought for equitable coverage, higher salaries, and better endorsement deals. Clark's rapid rise, coupled with Silver's public remarks, highlighted the persistent gaps in media attention and resource allocation. Many athletes viewed this as a stark illustration of how recognition often favors narrative over tenure. A collegiate athlete with an exceptional season could suddenly dominate public discourse, drawing attention away from professionals who had spent years building the league's credibility and fan base. For some, it felt like years of effort could be overshadowed in an instant by a well-timed endorsement from a high-ranking authority figure. The league's executives faced a delicate balancing act. On one hand, Silver's comments were undeniably positive for women's basketball overall. They drew attention to the sport, elevated conversation, and potentially opened doors for sponsorships and viewership growth. On the other hand, the remarks risked alienating current players and creating the perception that the league prioritized hype over hard-earned experience. Internal discussions reportedly focused on how to manage both the narrative and player expectations, ensuring that Clark's rise didn't inadvertently diminish the league's established stars or upset long-standing relationships between athletes and management. Communication strategies, media appearances, and public statements were carefully considered to maintain equilibrium. Social media continued to amplify the tension. Fans dissected every comment, every highlight, and every endorsement. The discussion extended beyond basketball skills, touching on influence, visibility, and the distribution of recognition in professional sports. Some fans debated whether Clark's accolades were appropriate, while others defended the NBA commissioner's statements, noting that highlighting rising talent could be beneficial for the sport as a whole. Analysts emphasized that attention and influence are cyclical and unpredictable, and that managing public perception is as critical as performing on the court. The narrative had evolved into a broader commentary on women's professional sports, equity, and the challenges of sustaining visibility. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark herself became increasingly aware of the unintended consequences of Silver's praise. While she celebrated her own achievements, she also faced questions about how her rise affected her professional peers. Interviews became more nuanced, with Clark acknowledging the league's stars and emphasizing the importance of teamwork, mentorship, and inspiration. She sought to position herself not as a competitor to WNBA athletes, but as someone whose success could highlight the sport and encourage more attention to women's basketball overall. It was a delicate balance, leveraging momentum without alienating those who had paved the way. As the story unfolded, the narrative became multidimensional. It was about individual talent, professional jealousy, media influence, and strategic positioning. The WNBA had to navigate the immediate pressures of public perception while considering long-term consequences for player morale, sponsorships, and league growth. The interplay between Clark, Silver, and WNBA players highlighted the complexities of recognition and visibility in women's professional sports. What may have started as a simple endorsement became a defining moment, forcing everyone involved to confront the nuances of fame, fairness, and influence. By the end of Part 4, it was clear that the conversation was no longer about one player's skill alone. Caitlin Clark had become a catalyst for debate, reflection, and strategic reassessment across the league. WNBA players, league executives, fans, and media alike were forced to navigate a new reality where rising stars and established athletes coexist in a landscape defined as much by perception and narrative as by on-court performance. The stakes were higher than ever, and the consequences of this moment would ripple through women's basketball for years to come. By the time Part 5 begins, the situation surrounding Caitlin Clark's meteoric rise had evolved into a full-blown cultural conversation. The initial shock of Adam Silver's comments had transformed into widespread debate, both online and within professional circles. WNBA players, who initially reacted with a mixture of frustration and cautious optimism, now found themselves navigating a reality in which public perception, media coverage, and influence had shifted in ways few could have predicted. What was once a moment of recognition for a single collegiate star had become a catalyst for industry-wide reflection, forcing the league, its athletes, and its fans to confront uncomfortable truths about visibility, equity, and hierarchy in women's basketball. The public fallout was immediate and multi-layered. Social media exploded with commentary ranging from celebratory praise of Clark's talent to heated debates about the perceived imbalance in recognition. Fans dissected every performance, statistic, and highlight reel, comparing Clark's rising influence to that of established WNBA stars. Industry analysts weighed in, emphasizing that the narrative was no longer purely about skill, it was about marketability, timing, and public perception. For many WNBA players, the contrast was stark. Their years of effort and achievement were suddenly measured against a collegiate athlete who had just entered the public consciousness in a big way. Inside the league, tensions persisted, but strategies for managing the situation began to emerge. Executives emphasized the importance of maintaining balance, ensuring that Clark's rise didn't unintentionally overshadow the contributions of current professional athletes. Marketing campaigns were carefully adjusted to highlight both rising stars and established talent, while media appearances were orchestrated to provide a platform for WNBA players to remind audiences of the league's depth, skill, and history. Agents worked to leverage the increased attention on women's basketball as a whole, seeking opportunities that could benefit both their clients and the league collectively. The goal was clear: turn a potential point of contention into a shared advantage. Players themselves approached the situation with a mixture of caution and determination. Some openly acknowledged the inspiration Clark represented, viewing her as a figure whose talent could bring new eyes to the sport. Others were more guarded, expressing concerns about the fleeting nature of attention and the need to maintain their own relevance amid the media frenzy. Interviews, social media posts, and public appearances became opportunities to reinforce professional credibility while subtly asserting the importance of experience, tenure, and consistency. The moment required diplomacy, strategic communication, and careful management of both personal and collective narratives. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark had to navigate the pressure of public scrutiny. The praise from Adam Silver elevated her profile significantly, but it also placed her under a microscope. Every performance, interview, and statement was analyzed not only for basketball merit but also for its impact on the larger conversation surrounding women's basketball. Clark appeared to recognize this responsibility, emphasizing the value of teamwork, mentorship, and shared success in interviews and appearances. She sought to show respect for the league's veterans while also asserting her role as a rising star whose achievements could complement and elevate the sport as a whole. It was a delicate balancing act, harnessing the momentum without alienating those who had fought for years to build the league's credibility. By this stage, the conversation had extended beyond basketball into broader societal questions about recognition, equity, and influence. Silver's comments, while meant to celebrate a rising talent, inadvertently highlighted systemic challenges that the WNBA continues to face: limited coverage, uneven sponsorship opportunities, and the struggle to balance emerging stars with established players. The dialogue became a reflection of larger trends in sports media and cultural attention, where timing, narrative framing, and marketability can sometimes outweigh experience or proven excellence. This broader context gave players, executives, and fans reason to think critically about how the sports ecosystem functions and how it can evolve to support talent at every level. By the end, what emerged was a multidimensional understanding of the situation. Adam Silver's praise for Caitlin Clark had ignited a complex interplay of admiration, jealousy, strategy, and reflection. WNBA players, while initially frustrated, had an opportunity to adapt, reassert influence, and capitalize on the increased attention toward women's basketball. Executives were forced to consider how to balance the spotlight between rising stars and established professionals, while the public was given a window into the intricate dynamics that shape recognition and power in the sport. For Clark, the moment represented both opportunity and responsibility, a chance to influence the game and the conversation around it, while respecting the professionals who had paved the way. Ultimately, this episode reinforced that influence in sports is about more than skill or statistics. It is about perception, narrative, and timing, as well as the ability to navigate complex social and professional networks. Caitlin Clark's impact was undeniable, but so too was the enduring importance of the WNBA players who have worked tirelessly to grow the league. The story highlighted how recognition, jealousy, and strategy intersect in ways that shape careers, leagues, and the culture of the sport itself. What began as a single comment from the NBA commissioner had grown into a defining moment for women's basketball, a moment that would influence how players, fans, and the league perceive talent, influence, and the delicate balance between new stars and established icons. This story isn't just about Caitlin Clark, it's about power, recognition, and influence in women's basketball. Adam Silver's comments sparked a fire that reached locker rooms, social media, and fans everywhere, showing just how much perception and visibility matter in shaping careers. WNBA players, while frustrated, now have a front-row seat to the realities of fame, influence, and the delicate balance between rising stars and seasoned professionals. What do you think? Are WNBA players right to feel overshadowed, or is this just part of the natural cycle of recognition for exceptional talent?
Drop your thoughts in the comments and let us know which side you're on.
If you want more insider updates, viral takes, and behind-the-scenes drama from the world of sports, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. The next story could change everything, and you don't want to miss a single detail.